Hello, you're watching TelecomTV. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content. Now, to be competitive in a growing cloud-first world, CSPs need to build a multi-cloud infrastructure, allowing greater agility, scalability, and cost savings. Well, to discuss how CSPs can avoid vendor lock-in while reaping the benefits of building hybrid multi-cloud connectivity, I'm joined by Azhar Sayeed, Senior Director TME Technology and Strategy at Red Hat, and Manish Mangal, who is Global Business Head 5G and Network Services at Mahindra. Good to see you both. Thanks so much for taking part in our program today. Now, automation's general value is well understood, freeing people from repetitive tasks, reducing or removing user error, etc. But what patterns or best practices are you seeing with service providers automating their networks? And also, to what effect or advantage? Azhar, let's hear from you first.
Thank you, Guy. We've worked with many service providers in terms of implementing automation, and TechM is one of our biggest partners in that particular space. Now, commonly, automation is understood to work very well when you have repeatable tasks or repeated tasks that you can actually reliably introduce or reproduce using automation. But that's just not it, right? I mean, automation is not just about automating repeatable tasks. It's a lot about looking at data, analyzing that particular data more effectively, and then using automation as a tool to implement a whole host of other characteristics and capabilities with the infrastructure in terms of better operations, better analytics, and so on. Now, what we've seen, of course, is that increase in productivity with automation. More than 30% increase in productivity, 30% more in deployment of applications. Doing things like security and compliance checks, that's also possible through automation. Reduction in unplanned downtime, about 75% or 80% reduction in unplanned downtime. Reduction in unplanned outages, right? About more than 50% reduction in unplanned outages. And overall, just process improvements and faster time to market with respect to different kinds of services and applications that you can deploy using automation. So automation actually enables all of these. It's not just about saying productivity increase or improving in efficiency with respect to operations. It's about also using that instrumentation from the infrastructure, using automation to collect that, analyze that, and then apply intelligence on top of it to provide overall better operations.
Absolutely. Thanks, Azhar. And Manish, what are you seeing from CSPs?
Oh, thanks, Guy. Lovely to be here. Azhar just mentioned a couple of very critical things. One is the statistics that he spoke about in terms of the kind of productivity enhancements and the improvements that we can get by deploying automation as a fundamental capability across the networks, especially now as the networks have become cloud-native networks more and more. But I think from my lens, as I look at it, the numbers are achieved because the automation has become a fundamental way of doing things now. Automation is about removing resistance in terms of how you do everything today, not just about removing the repetitive tasks, but also looking at everything that can be done without a higher level of human intervention. So when you look at the network lifecycle and you look at planning, you look at designing, you look at testing and integration, deployment, and then the operations and day-to-day management, in every part of the lifecycle, the automation has become an integral part. Like if you talk about the planning, automation allows you to look at the data in a way where you can figure it out, where do I put my CapEx more efficiently? Being able to generate the bill of materials automatically, being able to dispatch when I'm deploying the infrastructure, dispatch the technicians to deploy into the remote sites and or create the infrastructure remotely through the NOC itself. When you look at the testing and the integration, together with Red Hat, we have built hundreds and thousands of test scripts and the test automation capabilities that allows us to test new software, the new releases that are coming into the network much more efficiently, so that the time it takes to deploy a new capability gets much faster. And similarly, as you look at the day-to-day operations, the ability for automation to do ticket correlations, being able to manage the end-to-end life cycle of a field technician, which is absolutely a very high cost to the network, being able to bring in a lot more efficiency in terms of the number of full-time resources required in managing the network. So effectively, if you all look at from an end-to-end life cycle of a network, from that lens, what we are seeing working with the operators is that there are places where we can remove friction, and that's the approach that we have used. There is a technology tools that we work very closely with Red Hat and have a fantastic set of capabilities, and the application of those technology tools is effectively going into a end-to-end process in terms of how things are done, and wherever we find resistance is an opportunity for automation to remove it. And that's how we are able to get that level of productivity efficiencies that Azhar just spoke about it. And I believe we have just started. There is a whole lot more that we can do beyond that. And that's what we are really driven towards and excited about.
And Manish, there's a lot happening, as you just mentioned, and still more to come. But what challenges are you seeing now from customers as they are automating their networks? And how do you help them? How do you set them up to succeed?
Great. I think the fundamental, what I describe is a weakest link syndrome, right? So automation, if you can achieve from an end-to-end perspective, is great, but wherever there is manual work required and the automation stops is where we start to see the challenges. And let me explain a bit more around how that comes about. There are two categories. One is a coexistence of a legacy and a new infrastructure. When we talk about the new cloud native architecture that's built with Red Hat, OpenStack, OpenShift, our ability to automate is absolutely phenomenal, where we can apply the traditional, standard built automation templates and can actually really drive a lot of efficiency. However, we are not living in a perfect world. We are living in a world where the infrastructure is still coexisting. There is a lot of legacy infrastructure that still exists. We have tools, the OSS tools, which are quite custom built over the years that are still there. And they end up creating those resistance in automation, or we end up creating a lot more custom automation scripts to enable them, which is not the best way to do it. So that's one of the areas of challenges where how do we deal with the coexistence of the legacy and the new, while we are creating a very high level of productivity enhancements on the new architectures. The traditional architectures are yet to be done. And I think that's where we are addressing that by bridging them together, by creating a thin overlay layers that allows automating the legacy while deeply automating the new architectures. And this is really where the cloud native principles come into the picture. The other area where I see the challenges is really around the processes and the adoption. We all are used to doing things certain way, where a larger human intervention is typically expected. But as we bring in more and more automation, where lesser and lesser human intervention is required, and I just use an example of end-to-end ticket lifecycle management. A customer actually can create a ticket online, if it's an enterprise customer, or even a call coming in from a consumer actually can generate a ticket. From there up to the resolution of that ticket, if there is no human intervention involved, that's really the extreme, the last level of automation that we all want to get to. But today, if it requires somebody to sit in and invoke a legacy tool, and being able to see what's the status of the ticket is and where we need to act on, and that's where we start to see the resistance. So that's where the challenges that I see, both in the category of leveraging the new technology tools for the legacy architecture, as the legacy architecture starts to phase out, and the changes in the process required. In both of those vectors, we work very closely with the customers as well as with Red Hat in helping enable for our customers.
Thanks, Manish. And Azhar, what challenges are you seeing? And also, how does Red Hat's platform factor into overcoming some of these issues?
Yeah, I have to agree with Manish. I think he's phrased it very well in terms of some of the challenges that people at CSPs are seeing around automation. The biggest challenge that we have seen with automation is people trying to implement automation top down or bottom up inside the organization. I think a little bit of both need to happen, and you need to meet in the middle, meaning there has to be a top down initiative from a company perspective. So hey, let's focus on automation. Let's focus on gathering data. Let's focus on, improving overall our operations and methodologies, right? Which means improving processes, which means making sure that you have the right training um, uh, with the people, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, also, um, you know, it's also about, people tend to attack automation problems more as small little silos. I want to do automation of this transport infrastructure. I want to do automation of this server infrastructure or data center infrastructure. I want to do automation of service intake or customer intake capabilities. And while that's not a bad thing to actually attack that problem in small spaces, you need to have an overall vision in terms of how do you integrate these components. Because even if you decide to automate those small spaces, you might be gaining some small operational efficiency in that small space, but you're probably not going to see the whole lot of benefit without actually putting all of that together and seeing what is the real value we can actually extract out of this particular automation model. So those are some things in terms of strategies that I'm seeing people adopt and build and look at. Not only do we need to have a full automation vision across the organization in terms of all of the different contexts, from the customer intake all the way to customer services and delivery, and then the day two lifecycle management of the entire, not just infrastructure, but also network, applications, connectivity, everything all put together. And then we also have to look into the different aspects in the context of compliance, regulatory. Now, I understand that sometimes people just try and boil the ocean. Instead, I would say focus on different problem sets, have a good big picture vision, and then solve those problem sets through the overall automation capability. Now, from a Red Hat perspective, you have different platforms. You have Ansible automation platform. We have Ansible, different components in Ansible in terms of Ansible Galaxy and the curated catalog from Ansible, as well as we have automation capabilities built into Red Hat OpenShift with respect to Kubernetes operators, where they can actually run in parallel with the applications, monitor the capability of applications, and do lifecycle management on the fly automatically, right, as you define those different thresholds. So there are different tool sets that are available from Red Hat, and then work with somebody like Tech Mahindra who has the experience and capability to make that happen, because they've done it in IT space and in the network space.
Now, it's hard to have a conversation about network automation without including AI. Manish, what joint work have you done or are you doing in this space?
Absolutely, and I think we are just starting the AI era. Honestly, there is a lot of excitement about ChatGPT, about large language models in the industry, but I think particularly as it pertains to the telco world, I think we are just about getting started. And to me, AI is really a complete changeover from the traditional automation, right? And like we were speaking about, the purpose of the automation is to remove resistance. And I think AI is all about predictiveness. And I'll just use an example on how we have been working in with leveraging AI is predictive operations and predictive maintenance, right? The number of tickets and number of problems that we face in the field where the telcos and our customers, operators, both on the enterprise and the telecom side, on the CSP side, the amount of time and the money and the energy they spend in managing the network performance, the network outages, the network downtime is huge. And that goes straight into the bottom line in terms of the cost. So if you're able to predict what your network is going to behave, what your network is going to perform, and be able to take those predictive actions before the challenges come in front of you, you are tremendously able to remove the actual cost that it takes to reactively take care of it. And that's an area where we've been actually investing quite a bit and creating AI models. We see a huge opportunity now to take advantage of the large language models and being able to make it a lot more conversational and a lot more interactive in a way the people involved, whether it's the planning folks, the engineering folks, the operation folks, the field folks, everybody in the community who serves to maintain and operate the network, they can actually use all the information that's available within the network a lot more effectively. Now, one of the important things when we look at the AI in the telco space is there is no lack of data. But the good thing in a way is that a lot of the data is actually very proprietary within the network. So it's not a publicly available data on which you can just apply any large language module and start using it. The modeling of the AI within the data sets that's available for the telco customers will be the journey that we are taking together with them. And that's where we think that, what AI will do now in terms of completely creating the so-called dark knocks, where the tickets, I just keep using the ticket as an example because it has an end-to-end life cycle, but it applies everywhere. You are doing the CapEx planning. You are able to actually deal with the events where suddenly a large amount of capacity is required. You are able to deal with any unpredictable outages that come, and suddenly you are able to actually use the vast amount of data to be able to really figure it out where the problem is, and being able to solve that even reactively using the AI model. So we really believe that we are at just the cusp of the new AI era in the telecom industry. And our focus in that space, working with partners like Red Hat, is really to build those large language models that are built with tremendous amount of data that telcos have, and being able to help them predictively build, maintain, and operate the network on a day-to-day basis. And I think the efficiency and the productivity levels that we are talking about are going to go completely off the chart as we make those models come to life in the real telco environment. And it's not that far. Within 6 to 9 months, you'll start to see a huge amount of traction in that space, where we are really talking about disrupting the operating cost of the telcos, and that's going to really give a completely new wind in terms of how the performance of a telco, both from a financial as well as a customer experience, looks like it.
Yes, indeed, it's a huge opportunity. And Azhar, what work are you doing with AI to support automation?
Well, most recently, we just did an announcement at Red Hat Summit around Ansible and combining Ansible with AI components called Ansible Lightspeed. The idea behind what that was exactly what Manish was really describing, which is, if you remember, it's the starting of this conversation, I said, automation not only allows you to, automate repeatable tasks for better efficiency, but it also allows you to gather data and analyze it more aggressively, and aggregate all of that information, so that now you can take that data, apply these different models that Manish was talking about, and then provide predictive behaviors, provide information on the infrastructure and on the network in terms of how you can provide predictive maintenance and predictive, on that particular infrastructure. So you take actions then at that point in time before an event occurs, or before you anticipate that there is going to be a problem. You take remedial action before that, whether it is about expanding capacity, whether it is about moving workloads around to be more efficient, or whether it is about just providing a new service or new capability based on what you just analyzed. So automation really becomes that basis, because automation allows instrumentation, and automation allows you to create these data layers and data management and data lakes, right? And that in turn allows you to create analytics, which in turn allows you to build the models, train those models, and which in turn allows you to actually apply full artificial intelligence. So that's kind of the sequence and becomes the basic platform. Now, from a Red Hat perspective, as I mentioned, Ansible Lightspeed is a great tool that allows you to build contextually the playbooks for automation using trained models and using data. Then over and above that, we have something called Red Hat OpenShift Data Science, which is building a data platform for data science and analytics, and then in turn do automation and AI with it. Now, AI these days obviously is the name of the game. Everybody seems to say AI is the answer to every problem. Well, we'll see that in the future in terms of how many problems it can address, but certainly in terms of improving infrastructure, certainly in terms of improving operations, in terms of providing better customer experience and better customer service. AI can provide improve things by leaps and bounds, and we are beginning to see that already.
Yeah, it's really good to hear. Well, we've covered the work you are both doing on automation, but what else is Tech Mahindra and Red Hat working together on now? And when should service providers seek you out? Azhar?
Yeah, a number of things we've worked together on, right? Building solutions, validating patterns, building reference architectures, creating joint go-to-market plans in the area of 5G core and RAN, in the area of OSS and BSS with something called Blue Marble, which is actually a Tech Mahindra product, through one of its acquisitions. And this is to create really a cloud native OSS BSS capability running on Red Hat OpenShift on any form factor or footprint, be it private cloud or public cloud, right? Working with Tech Mahindra in public cloud to actually create managed services model for building, managing, and operating that particular platform. So there's a host of different activities, including something like New Age delivery platform that Tech Mahindra has. So, I mean, again, Manish can talk about each of these ones in a lot more detail. But what I see from a pure customer benefit perspective and from a customer adoption perspective is that we, work in building these joint reference patterns, in building solutions that we can take to market to solve specific customer problems around their operations, around day zero, day one, day two, lifecycle management capabilities in the area of 5G core, in the area of 5G RAN, in the area of OSS BSS, and in the area of application modernization and IT transformation.
Thanks, Azhar. Well, let's do as you suggest now and hear from Manish with more detail on how you are working together.
Absolutely. And I think there are two platforms that I just want to speak about. One is NetOps.ai, and the second one is Blue Marble. And exactly to what Azhar said, that we have actually built these two platforms as a digital OSS and a BSS that serves the needs for the telco to create this. How do you manage and monetize this new age architectures, right? At the end of the day, our objective is to eliminate the necessity for friction, or eliminate all the friction required from an end-to-end lifecycle management of networks day zero, day one to day two. And these two platforms, NetOps.ai and Blue Marble, are designed for that primary purpose, where you look at the end-to-end lifecycle management, you look at how the AI becomes more useful in every aspect of it. And they are built on the capabilities and the tools that Red Hat provide, the Ansible automation framework that Azhar was talking about. So I think together we have created a industry-leading, state-of-the-art, end-to-end automation-centric lifecycle management capability for the telcos to be able to build, operate, and manage their network. And we are very excited about it because this is not a paperware. This is actually a product, set of products that are available in the market today, commercially deployed in the carrier and delivering the outcomes. And we only are working now further to use the new age of AI, which is Gen AI, to be part of that ecosystem as we go forward. And it will only dramatically improve the efficiencies and the productivity enhancements that we are already able to deliver for our customers today.
Indeed. Well, we must leave it there for now. Manish and Azhar, thank you both very much indeed for taking part in our discussion today.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Manish.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Azhar.